Hello everyone. So today we will be starting our topic 2D array Python. In the previous lecture, we discussed that we will be learning how 2D arrays work in Python and what are the methods we can utilize with 2D arrays. But before jumping towards the code, let us first understand how 2D array looks. What is the visual of 2D array? So first, what we have to understand is what's the difference between one-dimensional array and two-dimensional array, which is 2D. So we have only worked on one-dimensional array so far, which have a single row of elements. In one-dimensional array, we have all elements on a single row, but that's not the case in two-dimensional array. And in real world, we often see that most of the data is presented in row and columns. You can consider an example of an Excel sheet where whatever task you are doing, you have to do that in 2D column, 2D row and column shape. Okay, so 2D two-dimensional array has rows and columns. What does rows and columns mean? Rows and columns means row means along the horizontal axis, which you can say in the physics term x-axis, and column has the vertical element, which is along the y-axis. If you know a little bit about physics, so you have to follow horizontal axis and vertical axis. So in below you can see that. Okay, so let me bring annotation here. You can see that there are three rows here, 1, 2, and 3, and 6 columns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is an example of 2D array. This is a real world example of 2D in which the lockers are placed on a specific location where it has six lockers in a one row and total 6 columns. Okay, so now let's move towards the next slide. Okay, many programming languages actually store two-dimensional array data in a one-dimensional array. So if you have a two-dimensional array, you can convert that data into one-dimensional array. But how you can convert the data into one-dimensional array? There are two ways which you can follow. First one is row measure and the other one is column measure. So here we can see in an example that we have here two-dimensional array in which we have 2 rows and 3 columns. What if we want to convert this two-dimensional array into row measure order? So in that case, what will do is that we will first start reading from the 0th element, and then we will completely read the row, complete the row, and then we will jump towards the next row. In that way, we will have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. But let's say you don't want to follow this approach and you want to, follow this column of measure order approach. Then what you will do in that case, I'm going to change this color so that it becomes easier. Okay, so if you are trying to implement column measure order, then you will be reading in that way. First, you will read 2 and then 8, then 4, 10, 6, and 12. So we can see here in column measure, we have 2, 8, 4, 10, and 6, 12. So this is the two approaches which in most of the cases we use to convert the 2D array into 1D array. Okay, so that was the presentation part. Now let me jump towards the coding part, which is more important. So I believe you can see my screen. So first we will be starting with how we can initialize an array. If you know in Python, to simply initialize 1D array, we can simply declare array and then we can use square brackets and we will have the empty array with us. So here we have empty array, but to declare 2D array, we have to follow some approach. First, we are from array library, we are importing everything because we want to use array functions and it's different, all of the functions. So we are just importing everything from it. And then we have built declare initialize two variables, row and column. And there are two ways in which we can initialize our 2D array. First is that we just simply first multiply zero matrix with column and then row. This will give us how many columns you want, and then multiply by row will give us how many rows you want. There is another way. I believe you remember that we learned list comprehension in previous lecture. If you don't know how to write code for list comprehension, then please check out the video that was lecture 2. And to declare and initialize 2D array using list comprehension, what we will do is that first we will be defining variable, initializing variable for an inner loop for the column variable, and then for outer loop we will use the row element. In that way we will have 2D array. Okay, so there is one more thing which I believe you should know, that when we have two inner and outer loop in list comprehension, how it is work is that first it takes the element of outer loop and then it multiplies that element with inner loop. So here for chain range, it will take one element of the row, that means one row, and then it will multiply each of these column. And so we have column with five value, so it will give 5 element in each row. That will be the case in all circumstances. Okay. Okay, so here I have used 0 as in a matrix because we learned that we can declare 1D array as an empty array, but for 2D we have to initialize some value, and we have used 0 here. You can use any other value. So this is array and this is new array. When we are printing both of these array, our result is the same. Okay, so here when 0 multiplies by column, that means what we want? We want 5 columns. So our column is 5. So it will print 0 5 times. But when we multiply that 5 with multiply by row, that means we have to multiply this by 3 more times. So it will give us 3 rows. And in that case, it first will run outer loop and then it will run inner loop. So we are done with the initialization part. Oh, yeah, here is okay. So this is what we done in the above code. This is the same as the 1D array. Now we are going to understand how we can use indexing, how we can access element. So here I have declared one 2D array. Okay, so to make it easy for you, I'm going to formatting, give it formatting. Okay, so now I'm going to access 0th element. Remember what is the 0th element here? This is the 0, this is the 1, this is the 2, this is the 3. If you want to access a specific inner part of your array, then you can only use one indexing. But if you want to access a specific element, such as you want to access 8, for 8, you have to use proper indexing. Let's say this is 0 index, this is 1, this is 2. So you will be using T2. So this doesn't end here. If you use T2, it will print this inner array completely, but we only want to access 8. So it will be 0, 0 will be at 10 and it will be 1. So if I print that element, then it will give me what? It will give me 8th element. Let me see. Okay. So here we can see we have print out the 8th element. So in 2D array, we have to use
So first index for row and second index for column. If we only use row index, such as we have used 0 here, we will get the complete row. Okay, and in that case, we can see we are trying to use first index of the row, which is 15, 6, and 10, and the second index of that specific row, that will be 10 elements. So here we have 10. So that's the way of accessing element using indexing in array. So this is way of printing our 2D array. For R in T means to take this row in this T array, and then for C in R means for each element in R, we are printing that value and we are putting space between each of the elements, and then we are just printing printing one more statement. It will create a new line for us so that our data remains in row column format. Otherwise, if I comment this out, it will completely print into one row, and we don't want that. So that's why we are printing that after our row printing ends. Okay, so we also have insert function in which we can, in our 2D array, we can insert one element or a group of element in our array. Here we can see in insert function, first it will ask us at what index do we want to insert the value, and then we can give our desired input. So 2 is the index and 6 is the inner list which you want to add. So we run the same for loop, outer loop and inner loop to print this and see what changes our result. So in upper code, we have only 4 rows. So now we have 5 rows, and this in inner array is added at second index after 15, 16. Okay. Now we are going to understand how we can update values. Updating value is easy because we just have to give assigning to the value. In above code, we see we have at second index we insert 0, 5, 11, 13, 6. But here we are updating our array second index with 11 and 9. So we will have 11 and 9 instead of these 5 elements. Here we have 11 and 9 instead of 5 elements. We have just updated the value. This was the complete inner array. But let's say we want to update on this specific value. How we can do that? So here we have take the zeroth array, which will zeroth or row, which will be 11, 12, 15, 5, 2, and third index. Third index will be 2, and we have replaced that with 7 value. So when we are printing that, we can see we have 7 here. And that's the easiest part. I think updating value is easy, but you just have to assign that the specific range or value to this specific index. Okay, so now we are going to understand deleting. In deleting, we can delete the entire inner array or some specific data element of the inner array by reassigning the value using the delete method with index. But in case you need to remove specific data elements in one of the inner arrays, you then use the update process described above. To sum this up, we can delete entire array like this, entire inner array like this, such as we are using delete T3. What is T3? T3 is this 10, 18, 12, and 5. So we are just deleting that inner list from our array, and then we are just printing our result. Let's say you want to delete a specific element of our 2D array. We just take the row and column of that element and we deleted it. Then we print it using these 4 inner and outer loop, and then we can see that in second row and first column, in second row 0, 1, 2, and first column we have 9. So 9 is deleted. So that was some of the basic functions which we should know about 2D array and how you can use 2D array to work on your problems such as related to database, related to Excel queries, and so on. I hope you get a lot of knowledge from this lecture. See you soon in the next lecture.